Hey, this is Ben from T3, and this is the second game from the tournament that I went to a couple weeks ago at Gameology in just about 45 minutes away from me here. But this first game, you saw Kit and Jinteki Personal Evolution, and this one is Near Earth Hub against Quetzal. And Quetzal's really interesting. I haven't really seen a lot of different builds for her. They all either are like E3 or the typical Anatomy of an Anarchy build. So I'm really interested to see what Gil has in store for me here. And of course, Quetzal's ability gets rid of the, or can break Quetzal can break a subroutine on a barrier piece of ice for free. So really good against NBN in general, because Eli and Wraparound are generally a really big part of the NBN game plan. And can't really make out what Gil has in his hand, but on my side, a bunch of ice, Astro, and economy. So the hedge fund's great. Ice, and hedge fund. So Gil just runs R&D, seeing an Ichi, it looked like, and I decided to res the Eli in front of HQ, and I don't think that was a good play to put an Eli in front of HQ because it only cost Quetzal a click, and I do have that Astro script, so that could have went really, really bad for me. Luckily, it didn't. And he just Gil finishes his turn by playing John Masanori. So now his successful runs will get him a free card draw. Click compression. It's really, really good. Pretty big in this game. So I created the new server with Lotus Field and installed over Eli and drew up a little bit. So probably looking to get my fast advance built up or build a safe scoring server. But what I'm always afraid of out of Anarch is Knight, and really out of most factions is Knight. Anarch most obviously so because it's in faction, and so one ice server doesn't really come off as safe, and because it's Quetzal, it can't be a barrier either. So I'm pretty much stuck with code gates. I don't really play a whole lot of sentries, so um, definitely need to get a second piece of ice or even a pop-up just to kind of throw off Quetzal. And I draw for my turn, or it looks like one of the cards I drew before was an NAPD as well. So my hand's 2 agendas and 3 ice, and I just decide to money up. Not sure what I have out in front of HQ, but I just need to start establishing myself a little bit here and find a server that I can dump that Astro script and start getting that train going. Looks like Gil sure gambled and is moving his money to a little bit more of an accessible location. He's not holding his hand in a way that I can read, unfortunately, so he's just going to keep applying pressure, which is awesome. This is what I think Anarchs should do all the time. By constantly applying pressure, you're keeping the corp low on money, and of course you can easily potentially steal an agenda, or in this case access and trash Jackson Howard. And whereas Eli normally ultimately would lose the runner 3 clicks, 1 to make the run and 2 to break through, Quetzal's getting through with just 1 click, which makes Eli much less good, but the upside is he can only do that once. Oh, he only uses the ability once a turn, so there's that too. And it looks like I just need to get an agenda out of my hand, so I hedge fund, gaining some money, and install and advance, but I wasn't able to see what that is. And yep, so here's that Knight play. This is exactly what I'm looking for, and I think I was trying to bluff that out, that agenda, because I think that's an Astro script. I was trying to bluff the agenda out as an NAPD, and hoping that maybe he wouldn't try or he wouldn't find it was worth it to run. It's a gamble that didn't really pay off, so either way, I think it was worth it in this case, even though he does have the Astro, because now I know what's coming, and he doesn't have a lot of other money, because it did slow him down. So I will play Jackson and spend some time drawing. And you saw Beal and an Astro script. which I'm sure I'm going to at least discard the Beal and the NAPD. And I see a Fast Track in my hand as well, which I discard. So I think that was a Beal, an NAPD, and a Fast Track that I just discarded, which is the best option. I would rather not have my hand full of agendas. And even though he has that data sucker, worst case is I just trash Jackson. So okay, so he runs of course runs archives to check, and I'm gonna ditch Jackson and shuffle those in and get the third Jackson, or get him the other Jackson back in the deck. And Gil should get his data sucker tokens. I don't. Okay. Yeah, pressure, as I was saying before, pressure in Anarch is huge. So many of their cards it's easier. Like, you really want to see what the corp has rezzed or what the corp has installed. Because Parasite, obviously, Parasite can only be played on a rezzed card. So you want to know what they have to Parasite stuff. You want to know where to stick your knight, know where you can just click through. And the more that they can analyze the matchup and analyze what the corp's game state is, the better they can mess it up and really get in there and cause havoc, which is the Anarch strength. So Gil did see the pad campaign that I drew, but just icing up all around, and I'm going to make it a little bit more costly for him to get in my servers. Plus, this way, he might feel like he has to move the knight around a little bit, and while I don't want to trash the Lotus Field, because it is 5 strength and immune to his Parasite nonsense, he can potentially move that knight onto another piece of ice that I don't really care if I trash. So, really, really helpful there, just to try and force that move. Force the knight to get off that server. And that's exactly what he does. So, credits up, moves the knight, and makes a run on R&D. And this is risky because he doesn't know what's there, and he does have John Masanori. So this could end in him taking a tag. Alright, so he breaks the wraparound with knight and then clicks through Eli, and of course scores him the second Astroscript, and I have the third one in my hand. So at least I know where the third one is, although it's not going to be easy for me to come back out of him stealing 2 Astros. So throw the pad campaign down to draw up a little bit more, and we can see a same old thing in Gil's hand, but he doesn't have any. He doesn't really have any events aside from like a Dirty Laundry and a Sure Gamble, which definitely isn't worth a same old thing, either of them. And I just money up a little bit so I can res more ice and play the pad campaign, fortifying my position a little bit. And wisely, Gil just keeps hitting R&D. It's still pretty cheap right now, and he just is mining those data sucker tokens, and I think that's something I need to shore up. The good side of this whole thing, though, and how Gil's running, is that he's spending all of these clicks to get through Eli, which is slowing him way, way, way down as far as his board state goes. He doesn't have any money right now, and even though he has those 4 data sucker tokens and the knight, he has no way to fuel it. He doesn't have any way of making money on the board. It doesn't look like he has any way of making money in his hand, so he's kind of starting to stall out, or at least it looks that way. In this game's, I can't, without seeing his hand, it looks that way. And I trashed the knight, which is huge. Especially, it was just a wraparound, and it cost him $4. So with my two credits, I was able to get rid of the knight, force him to waste essentially 2 turns getting into R&D, even though he stole the Astro. Slowing his tempo way down when he has absolutely no money is huge. And now I have those 2 pad campaigns that are ready to go that he really isn't in a position to trash. And his run on HQ was stopped by pop-up window, which is great. He didn't have money. It got me a credit, and he got a tag for it, which he just spent the rest of his turn clearing. So just because he didn't have one credit here, he wasted an entire turn and gave me money. So that's a really, really hard. That's what NEH IC tends to do a lot. Is it's just tempo hit after tempo hit after tempo hit, and you need a really, really robust economy to get through it. So I would say even though he's ahead of the he's way ahead of me as far as who being close to winning. He isn't where I am economically or in a board state. I'm getting the 2 free credits every single turn. Um, and he's wow! I just realized that he moved his money again. Um, so some of what I said might not be valid, but still the same thing goes. So even with his 4 credits and all of his data sucker tokens, I'm in a much better position economically. Um, he doesn't really have anywhere he can go that's free or cheap, and anything like if he runs HQ, he's just giving me money. Uh, and if he's running R&D, he's wasting a lot of his turn. And I can't remember the what I overwrote that night with, so it'll be a little surprise for later. And I'm just drawing ice, and I think purging here was the right decision because now he has a lot of data sucker tokens and plenty of money, so he could just start parasiting my stuff, and that was definitely a concern. If he parasited either of those 2 Elis, it would have given him completely free access. And with that nerve agent that he just played, that could potentially be devastating going into late game. Because then he just gets data sucker tokens and he gets to see all of the cards in my hand. And I can't quite make out what I have, but I think that was a Sansan that he just grabbed. But I can't see any of the other things in my hand. And even still, even with that nerve agent, he has to invest a lot to get into HQ to start seeing multiple accesses. So adding that new piece of ice, the third piece of ice, is makes HQ. It really disincentivizes HQ running on HQ because it's a click to run, a click to break Eli, and a credit for pop up that I get, plus whatever's out in front, which I want to say is probably an Ichi 1 at this point. So it's a really, really annoying server to get through, and I'm just going to start blowing up his programs. So instead, starting to take out my economy with Imp, which is a good response. You really can't let the pad campaigns live all game. Once I don't have to click for credits, it speeds the stack up really hard. Like even right now with the 8 credits, I can res anything in my deck, and probably still score out something afterwards. And I want to say in front of that wraparound is a loaded, or in front of the Lotus field is a wraparound. But I can't really recall. And since he has the imp out, I'm going to protect my pad campaign. Pretty much anything here is worthwhile. Like, the pad campaign's already given me its money back. So throwing just a quandary in front of the pad campaign disincentivizes running that server a lot. Because now he either needs to waste a parasite, or he needs to spend like a knight. You know, he needs to get a knight over there, or even an overmind counter. Um, it's just not that advantageous. And it looks like that last server I'd installed was Sansan, so wisely trashing that with Imp, just so I can't start getting that fast advance rolling. But I think I had done that purposefully. I wanted him to use the Imp just so he wouldn't try and run on another economy card. Like in this game, if I remember correctly, I was flooded with Sands. So losing one isn't really that big of a deal. Uh, he can trash him all he wants. And one thing that is happening on Gil's side is I'm not sure if he doesn't run a lot of economy, but he's having a really hard time to get going. He's only really played dirty laundries and sure gambles for money, and his only draw that I've noticed is with John. So if he can't get free or easy runs, he's forced to click for credits and click for draws, and that's really hard for him to get right now. So I think it's slowing him down. And with the exception of like one sure gamble and two dirty laundries, I think all of Gil's economy has just been from clicking for credits, which is just so slow. I'm sure he would really like to see a liberated accounts or an Armitage. Armitage code busting would be very useful right now, just for some quick money. And so playing the knight and I'm right. That was an Ichi in front of the pop up. So for knight, he has a few clicks, but it also costs knight 4 just to break the trashes, and then I still get that trace to fire. So Gil elects to use his last click to trash or to break one of the trash programs, and he pays the 4 to break the other credits or the other subroutines and ends the run. So, oh yeah, and he takes a tag for John Masanori. So he just essentially wasted 6 credits, 3 clicks, in 3 clicks, yeah, to make that run, and he still ended up with the tag. So this is kind of where Anarch starts to get stuck. If they don't have any sort of economy, and it doesn't look like he plays cash. And I think the other breaker that Gil has in his hand that I saw is a Crypsis, so that's not any better for him to get into servers. Like, if he was able to fuel the data suckers a little bit, or if he had more data sucker counters, then Crypsis might be more economical for at least a short time until I start resing more ice. But even still, it's hard to get through when I do have all of this taxing ice out. Or any deck in general has all of this taxing ice out. So thinking about what I want to do, I see 2 Biotic Labors in my hand. There's a Sweep Sweek and a Jackson, I want to say. And I can't recall what is installed face down in my remote. Probably trying to decide what I want to do with it. Couldn't quite make out what I installed, and I'm pretty sure that was a Beal that I installed in the remote. Yeah, I had mentioned before I was getting all of those Sands, so I think I have another Sand inside that server. And just throwing the Beal out there too, but no need to fast advance it when I can just spend my turn. So now I have the 2 Biotics in my hand, the Astro Token, and a Sand on the board, but not rezzed. So it doesn't really matter for its part. Really, it's not a big deal right now that the Sand isn't rezzed. It's easy enough, and I get money every single turn from the pad campaign, which is pretty safe right now, since Gil only has the $4. And I res another wraparound. So even though Gil can spend 2 to get through and pretty easily get through it, it's really important for me at this point to keep his economy low. Because if I keep him out of range of like those liberated accounts and the sure gambles and anything that lets him get a lot of burst power, it really limits what he can do for a turn. and slows him right down. So and immediately again, as soon as I get that chance, I'm going to overwrite the knight with whatever I need. So this might have been a little bit of a tempo hit for me, but I don't have an agenda in my hand, or at least I'm not in a position to score any agenda in my hand. And if I can make it really easy for, or make it really hard, I should say, for Gil to get in my servers by continuously trashing those knights, he's not going to have that great of a time considering his money woes and the current board state without any breakers. So he did get a little bit of money to sure gamble, and I can just score out the BL on my turn and win. So he had a little bit of trouble economically, and that kind of slowed him way down. But I just drew into all of my ice, which really is what let me win the game here. So thank you for watching, and I'll catch you again soon.